Who watches the watchers? It is an old question, but it lands with new force in an age of automated power. We are told that complex systems run our world for our own safety. Systems for defense, systems for finance, systems for health. But who builds the blueprints for these systems? Who writes the rules that govern the code? The name most people will never hear is the MITRE Corporation, yet it sits deep inside the architecture of American and global power. It presents itself as a neutral, non-profit arbiter, a technical advisor working for the public good. But a close look reveals a different story. A quiet behemoth wielding immense influence without public accountability. It operates in the realm of standards, frameworks, and expert advice. It shapes the very language and logic that governments and corporations use to define threats and to build defenses. On the surface, MITRE's identity seems benign. It is a not-for-profit organization. This label conjures images of charities and academia, groups motivated by mission rather than money. This branding is its first and most effective layer of camouflage. Nonprofit is a legal designation, not a certificate of moral purity. For MITRE, it provides the perfect cover. It receives billions in public funds without being a government agency, shielding it from many transparency rules like FOIA. It operates behind corporate privacy while shaping public policy on a grand scale. Spun out of MIT's Lincoln Laboratory in 1958 to advise the U.S. Air Force, it was designed as a permanent consultant embedded within the national security state. Its special relationship acts as a golden ticket, steady funds and access to the most sensitive projects, with insulation from public accountability. MITRE's power is formalized through its management of FFRDCs, long-term sole-source research centers for government. It runs Centers for Defense, the FAA, the IRS, and Homeland Security, a permanent institutionalized partnership. It designs the architecture for vast, complex systems, from command and control to air traffic modernization and cyber infrastructure. Working side by side with officials, often cleared for top secrets, MITRE helps define problems, draft requirements, and evaluate solutions. This life cycle places it at every critical decision point for decades. A firewall is claimed, but when one entity is architect, consultant, and umpire, the potential for self-serving influence is immense. When billions are allocated for intelligence platforms or biometric databases, MITRE is in the room. Outsourcing core strategy to an unaccountable contractor creates a shadow government of technocrats shaping our future in secret. In the digital age, power belongs to those who write the rules. MITRE created ATT&CK and maintains the CVE list, frameworks that define how the world describes cyber threats and vulnerabilities. ATT&CK breaks intrusions into steps, now the de facto industry standard for defense and threat hunting. CVE numbers become universal identifiers that vendors, IT teams, and governments rely on to patch. By sponsoring and maintaining the program, MITRE helps decide what gets a CVE, how it is described, and when it is disclosed. Control over the language of cyber war centralizes assumptions and priorities. Powerful, but potentially narrowing. Frameworks reflect a national security focus, which can create blind spots and steer markets toward certain threats. MITRE is not just observing the game. It designs the field, writes the rulebook, and officiates the match. By offering ATT&CK and CVE for free, MITRE ensures rapid, widespread adoption. It deputizes the private sector, aligning thousands of companies to a single, government-backed view of security. Standardized data becomes easier to aggregate and share, often in formats favored by state partners. Private products become extensions of state collection, blurring public and private. ATT&CK structured data from London or Tokyo slots seamlessly into national analysis. Standards adoption is coerced softly, for compatibility, best practice, and government sales. Network effects make alternatives harder, sidelining innovation that does not map neatly to ATT&CK. A voluntary tool becomes a de facto law for the digital world. MITRE pivots from cyberspace to AI, synthetic biology, and health data, applying the same playbook of frameworks and threat models. It works on AI assurance, testing and validating machine learning systems, and on securing the bioeconomy, defining dual-use risks in genomics and synthetic biology. When one body defines what is safe or ethical, it effectively determines what is permissible in healthcare, justice, and autonomous weapons. An AI that fails a test can be blacklisted. A lab can be chilled by opaque standards. Power over the definition of biological threat is power over the future of science itself. This is mission creep by frameworks, standards, and threat matrices, always in the name of safety. But the result is centralization of control over the most powerful technologies of our time. MITRE's genesis was SAGE, a networked shield linking radar stations to create a unified picture of the airspace. Sensors, computers, communications, human operators, integrated for centralized command and control. MITRE was born as the master systems engineer. Today the airspace is global, and the threats include cyber attacks, biological agents, disinformation, and dissident ideas. The goal remains situational awareness and control of a dynamic environment. The logic of command and control leaks from the Pentagon into civilian life. Social, biological, economic. When military network thinkers design public rules, every problem can be recast as a threat, all data as intelligence. This is the ghost of SAGE haunting our digital present and future. The phrase "a wolf in sheep's clothing" fits for critics. The sheep's clothing is its image, objective, ethical, for the public good. Free tools, papers, conferences. It looks like a benevolent helper. Beneath, critics see an architect of surveillance, data collection, and centralization aligned with national security priorities. Free frameworks align the private sector with government standards, extending the state's reach. Dependence on government funding incentivizes ever-new threats and solutions that require MITRE's continued expansion. The danger is structural, unaccountable, operating in the shadows of classification and corporate privilege. The wolf's power is to hunt in plain sight. Power that operates in the dark is a threat to a democratic society. MITRE's fingerprints are on cybersecurity rules and emerging governance of AI and biotech. Yet it remains invisible to the public it helps govern. The time for passive acceptance is over. Citizens, journalists, and lawmakers must ask hard questions. Work at taxpayer-funded FFRDCs should not be hidden by corporate secrecy. Standards that affect the world must be open to public debate and meaningful oversight. We need rules to prevent the same entity from defining the problem and getting paid to architect the solution. In this century, power flows from code, standards, and frameworks. If we do not demand a seat where rules are written, we will live in a future built for us, not by us, and not with our consent. This video was made possible by Thunderbird Perch. Thank you for watching and for thinking critically. Subscribe to stay ahead. A future beyond our worst nightmares is being built in plain sight. Think about it. You'll live longer. A new world awaits.